Okay, so first things first, we're going to look at how you allocate a credit note on the purchase ledger or the sales ledger. It's the same process whichever way you go. So whether you're dealing with purchase or sales, it's a very similar process. So just opening up Xero here, make that a little bit bigger so the screen's more visible for you, hopefully. We're going to create a credit note, and then we're going to allocate that to an invoice, allocate that off. So firstly, what we need to do is to actually create the credit note. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to accounting and bills, business and bills. We're going to create a new credit note. And then we're literally just putting in some data here. So this is a credit note that you may have received from the supplier. For our example, we got a company called Central Copiers. We'll use the date that's on the thing. And here we're just saying that we've been overcharged for printer usage. So it's just filling it in like hopefully you're used to doing. And there, standard credit note, put in there. Once we're happy with it all and all the information's in there, we click approve. Once we click approve, we get an option to allocate a credit note. So we've got an invoice sitting on the system already. And now we're being asked, do we want to allocate that credit note against this invoice? And all we do to do that would be to put in the amount there. That allocates that invoice against the credit note. And then we can click allocate credit, and that would be how we would complete that. I'm going to click cancel for the moment because there's two other methods. So if you don't have the credit note, an invoice on in the first place, and you get an invoice at a later date, there's other ways to do this. So from the purchaser screen and the awaiting payments, so from that screen there, we can either find the invoice by using the search function. So if I use the search function there, and we can either go to the invoice itself, and once we're in the invoice, we can credit this bill. If we click on credit bill, it goes back to the same screen that you've seen before, or vice versa. We can go back to that credit note. Again, using the search function. This time we're going from the other way, we're going from the credit note. Options, allocate credit. Either or, same process, allocate the credit note. Once you're finally happy with all that, allocate the credit. And that is the allocating of the credits. We'll go back to the dashboard. Hopefully that's all fine. Has there been any questions on any of that at all? Is it all straightforward? to say, I don't know. Obviously, I know some of you that are on board and watching this. So if you've got any queries, just give us a shout. I don't know how relevant some of this is to you, so it might be stuff that you've already done or dealt with. So I'm just hoping that that you pick up something as we go through, and it's quite useful to you. So now moving on to the allocating of refunds. And the most important thing here is to note is that you cannot allocate refunds directly to credit notes. They have to be done beforehand in order to appear through the bank reconciliation. Let's share my screen again, sorry. So we're on bills and we're in bills to pay. And we're going to use the search option again to find the credit note. So we can search by the supplier, an amount, a date. Again, I'm going to go for just the name for the moment. So we've now got this credit note sitting on the system. What's actually happened is we're going to have received the money for that credit note now due to the overpayment. So once we click in here, you'll see in the bottom left-hand side down here that we can record a cash refund. We select the date. We select the account, and then we add the refund. And that's as straightforward as it is. That will then appear on the dashboard when you're in the reconcile screen. And what you'll then see, all being well, is that cash refund has now matched the receipt that's actually coming through your bank, and you can simply click OK on those transactions. I'm just admitting a couple of extra people into the room, so just bear with me 1 second. So we're now going to look at when you create overpayments, adding credits onto the purchase ledger or the sales ledger, of course. So I'll just go back to share my screen again. Okay, so you may have payments that you make to suppliers where you put a deposit in, and then you will receive an invoice 2 months, 3 months later. The usual example of that is our fees, where we pay a standing order on a monthly basis. And so what you would normally do is put a credit or what's called an overpayment onto the system to match up later on with an invoice that comes in. And to do this, we go from the from the Create tab, we go to this Add Details button. And then we change the direct payment here to overpayment. You can put a reference in there. And once that's done, you simply save transaction. And what that will do is put that £100 on the supplier's ledger for when you receive an invoice. And then what we'll have a look at is how you allocate that off. So the next stage of that process, 3 months down the line, you get a copy of the invoice that comes in. So we'll raise a sales purchase invoice. So hopefully we all know how to put purchase invoices on the system. Let's say it's today's date, that's fine. So there's your invoice going on the system. Now what you will see the minute you click approve, is this box come up. This box says to me, you have £200 worth of outstanding credit. Would you like to allocate the credit to the bill? You simply allocate. Put the amounts in that you're allocating. And that will leave a balance outstanding. You can allocate credit. And that is how you allocate credits onto the system. I'll stop sharing for a second. Has there been any questions? Is there nothing there? The notes to the presentation are now available on the chat. Everything okay there? Excellent. So now what I'm going to move on to is the allocating and splitting of payments and receipts. So this is a common thing that comes up, and basically this is where a payment either matches several invoices or part covers an invoice. And so the normal question is, how do I allocate it against more than one invoice? How do I allocate it to part of an invoice? So I'll walk you through that process. So we start with the bank reconciliation screen. And we're going to look at this smart agency payment. So there's been a payment of £4,500 on the ledger, and we now need to allocate that against various suppliers. It hasn't gone green, which means it's not connected to one. There's more than one invoice there. We need to match that up. So what we do is you can either use the match or the find and match. You can then use this search function here to simplify and reduce the list of entries here that you're looking for. So we're looking for anything to do with smart agency, so I would normally shorten it and have a look. And you can see there, we've got 2 purchase invoices sitting on the system to match against that smart agency payment. So now we simply need to match them. So we know that it pays the whole of this 10th of June invoice, but we've only paid a partial amount of this invoice. So how we deal with that is we would tick the box here. You'll see a blue split button appear here. And then that's where we would go in. It would automatically select the remaining balance that we have. But if it's less or more, you can edit that figure down or up. And then you click split. Once you've matched that, it's saying that there is a balance outstanding on the remainder of that invoice. That is absolutely fine. You've got the blue OK. So now you've matched everything OK all the way through, and you're simply clicking on OK. Okay, so that's how the general allocation of splits happens. This is in the notes, but obviously what you can do is for other invoices and other amounts, you can find a match. And if it's more than one invoice, you can keep clicking through. So, and then take £250 off that. So as long as it all matches up, then you click OK and you're allocating those. Excellent. So I'll stop share. So has there been any questions? Is there any queries on any of that so far? That's all okay. I will keep continuing. As I say, if you've got any questions, just throw them in the chat room, and Joanna and Natalie will help and assist with that. But otherwise, I'll just keep on ploughing on. So our next thing to look into is the bank statements and bank errors, because that is a common one that does pop up quite a bit. And it's one of the most time-consuming things is fixing errors to the bank feeds and the bank reconciliations. So we recommend that your bank balance is checked on a regular basis. Yes, for the majority, you have a direct bank feed. So you would hope, with all good will and intention, that that bank works. However, there are the odd occasion when things go wrong. The bank feeds can be duplicated. They can miss lines. It does happen from time to time. So what we always recommend, every now and again, doesn't have to be every day, but maybe once a month, once a quarter, you check that this statement balance here agrees to your actual bank statement that you get. If that doesn't agree, something has gone wrong. If you're checking it regularly, the less checks you'll need to do. But always come in here, as I say, on a quarterly basis, check this figure out. If it's wrong, I'll now talk you through some of the ways that we can solve the issues. So you've spotted something's wrong. The first point of place to go is your bank statements tab. So that's going on to the reconcile items, choosing the bank statements tab there. And what you'll see should be an exact replica of your bank statement. This bank statement balance going down here should exactly match your bank statement. What we say is, if you haven't done the check in a while, then what you can do is select the end of each month perhaps, or the start of each month, until you find where the balance is different, so we can then track down where the issues lie, and obviously work your way through until you can work out where the balance goes wrong. So there's normally the two main reasons for errors or things are a duplicated bank line. So the bank picks up the same expense line twice, you allocate them both, therefore the balance gets thrown out, or it misses a line and it's just not appearing there at all. So we'll look at both of those and how we deal with those. I'm going to start with duplicated lines. So you've come in here into the bank statements and you've seen a duplicated line. So if we go back a page, as an example, 1st of March, sorry, you've got Honey Barrett Limited, you've got Honey Barrett, 2 payments, both £100. One of those isn't correct, one of them's a duplication. And you can see it appearing on the 1st of April, etc., etc. Now, if the lines haven't been reconciled, i.e. they're still sitting in your reconcile tab, And here you can see we've got two 1st of June Honey Barretts. Only one of those is correct, so one's a duplication. You haven't reconciled them. The simple process, just go to your Options tab and click on Delete Statement Line. It will come up with, are you sure you want to delete the statement line? Simply click yes. That has removed that statement line. Now, if it works out at a later date that you weren't supposed to delete that statement line and there was actually 2 payments to Honey Barrett, we can always bring that back through the Bank Statements tab. If the transaction has been reconciled, i.e. you posted both the £100 like you saw on the 1st of March and the 1st of April, so 1st of May, you can see there's that duplication there. Then firstly, you need to remove one. And then before you can delete the statement line. So what you would do is you go to the Account Transactions tab. Because it's already been reconciled, it won't be there in the reconcile icon anymore. It will all be in the Account Transactions tab. Use the search function over here to reduce down the number of transactions. Again, using the supplier, using the amount, which is what I'm going to use, and clicking on search. So here are those transactions. And all we're going to simply do, we're going to pick one of the Honey Barretts, which has been coded straight to accountancy. So what's happened here is the bank fee duplicated. You accidentally posted one straight to accountancy, you posted one to overpayment. So we're going to remove the one that's gone to accountancy as that's incorrect. You simply click on the tick on the little box on the left-hand side there, remove and redo. It will come up with a warning. Do you want to permanently remove this transaction? Yes. Back in the reconcile box, you've now got that transaction sitting back in the reconcile screen, and you'll follow the same process as before. Click on Options, click on the statement line. Click on yes, and that's the removal of the duplications. Okay, so that's if you have a duplication. The other common issue is where you have a missing statement line. So you've run through your bank statements, they don't match, but it's because a date range has disappeared. So there's a couple of reasons why that could happen. One, you have accidentally deleted a statement line that you shouldn't have done because you thought it was a duplication, or the bank fee didn't work in the first place and we have to bring in those transactions. So firstly, if you have a line that you've accidentally deleted, so we're going to take the example here, there was 2 payments to O Greenville. You've assumed one was incorrect, so you deleted the line, but actually he did have 2 payments. So all you need to do is reinstate that line back into the reconciliation screen. What you need to do, go to the left-hand side, tick the transaction that actually needs to come back, and then at the very top, you've got a Restore button. Simply click on Restore, and that's brought that transaction back into your reconcile screen, and it's back to be reconciled. So that's if it's just a single transaction that you have deleted. If it's a case of you're missing a date range of transactions, then the best way to deal with that is to CSV import the transaction range back in. And so some of you may already do this. If you haven't got a bank feed, you may be CSV importing your bank statements in already. So you'll be used to this process. For those that do have the, and hopefully you do, have the bank feeds working, then this is the way you would import. So from the reconcile screen again, manage account, import a statement, and it will ask you to download a CSV template. You can download the CSV template. And what I'll do is I'm just going to switch. Stop sharing that screen, and I'll share that screen. So hopefully what you can see now, and Natalie, you'll have to shout if you can't see it, is the CSV template is literally this top line here on Excel. And that allows you to input the data of the missing gaps. Once you have that information and you filled that information in, you simply sorry, jumping around a bit, I do apologize. So once you filled in that information there, you would simply save it somewhere where you can find it, click on browse, and then upload that file. Unfortunately, the computer I'm working from at the moment doesn't have Excel access on this particular part, which is why I'm jumping between a couple of screens, so I can't download the file, but it would be a simple case of selecting the file, clicking import, and the file would then download. So then the third option you've got is manually creating transactions. So again, you've gone through your bank reconciliation. You found that you're missing some lines. So now what you want to do is manually enter those lines. So what you would normally do, you're in the account transactions reconcile screen again. You're going to manage account and you're going to spend or receive money. Now there's another way of going in through this. If you're in the account transactions tab, you simply click on new transaction. This will take you to the screen where you can change between the spend money and the received money. And you're simply putting in a transaction here. So I'll just check the example. So we've got a missed supplier payment. So literally filling in the basic expense details of what that missing line was and clicking on Save Transaction. Now what that has done is that's brought in the £120 that was missing off your statement line. But now you've got to manually mark it as reconciled because you're not allocating it through the reconcile screen as previous. So you're now in the account transactions. There's that £120. You know it's been reconciled. You know it's gone through the bank statement. So in order to get the bank statement balance to match, you need to manually mark this as reconciled. In order to do that, the first thing you've got to do is enable markers reconciled. To do that, up to the question mark over here, the help screen. And this is a very useful area actually. So if you ever have any queries, obviously Xero support at Honey Barrett will be your first call. But should you want to search and look into things, putting anything, discussion topic in here, what you're looking for, and that'll take you off to Xero Central, where you can get further help. So you've always got our email address. But at the bottom of this section here, there's a little tab here, Enable Markers Reconciled, and you simply switch it on. Once you switch it on, what you'll notice over here is all of a sudden you get a More tab. And all you simply do, select the entry that you know has actually gone through the bank statement but is not showing as reconciled. Click on More, and you've got the ability to mark as reconciled. It will come up with a warning to say, are you sure? It's not recommended to manually mark them as reconciled. But in this instance, you don't have much of a choice. Mark as reconciled. And what you'll see is that would change this bank statement balance because you're now saying that £100 has gone through. That's quite a lot on the bank errors and the bank transactions. Is there any questions on any of that? Hopefully you found some of that useful. The bank reconciliation issues are generally one of the bigger topics we have in terms of where there's a difference and how to find them. If there's not, I will quite happily carry on. With our next subject being the creating of bank rules. So Xero is very, very powerful, and if used correctly can save you an awful lot of time, and especially when it comes to setting up and creating rules, it's amazing. And if you get the rules right, your bank reconciliation becomes so much easier. And so I'll give you a quick demonstration on that. Okay, so from the Reconcile tab, if you have repeating entry transactions, you don't want to constantly keep typing out a who, what, why. You want to set a rule in place to stop you having to constantly keep doing it. And I'm going to take Cooper Street Bakery as an example here. Every time you go to the bakery, you don't want to keep reminding yourself that you're paying subsistence. You want a rule set up so it constantly goes there by itself. So all you need to do within the first transaction that you're looking at, click on Options and create a bank rule. And now you get this screen come up. And what you're doing here is telling Xero what to do with this transaction every time it appears, giving it guidance on where to go. So we're going to say if any of the conditions match, what I would do is change this field to any text field so it picks up this wording every single time. Change the condition to contains, because sometimes, especially if you shorten it, it's not looking for so much. So if it contains the value of Cooper Street, then what do I do with it? Well, firstly, I give it a contact, i.e. a supplier. Create a contact. And then I'm telling the system what to do with it here. So I'll keep this simple. the description is bakery. I'm going to put this to travel. We'll cheeky and claim VAT back on it. And then I'm going to set the reference. And I generally select the reference from the payee. But it doesn't really matter where the reference comes from. It's just an added bit of information. Then you've got several options. Then the final section is to run this rule on. And what you'll see here is a drop-down arrow. Now, if you've got more than one bank account, you'll have the option to select all bank accounts. Now, I do recommend that because if you get new bank accounts or get a new bank account and you haven't got that ticked, you're going to have to keep coming into these rules and selecting which bank account you want to use this rule on. If you select all bank accounts, then any new bank accounts will immediately adopt this rule so that if you use Cooper Street Bakery, that rule will apply. Once I'm happy everything's filled in, I click on save. And then we have a dreaded internet slow period. There we go. Did that come through or did that? Ooh. Dramatic pause while we seem to have an issue with saving that. Oh, there we go. Third time's charm. Now, what you will see, now you created that rule, is every time Cooper Street Bakery comes up, it's going to apply the Cooper Street Bakery rule. Now, if you know that that transaction isn't standard, i.e. you bought something else, it's more client entertaining this time, you bought a whole load of stuff, you have the option here to not apply the rule. Don't apply the rule. It switches back to the Create tab where you can then manually fill in the transactions. So bank rules are amazing, and the more you set up, the better. I do advise that you be a little bit careful with how you use the descriptions, because you can create some really daft rules if you're not careful, where if you've got something where any text field contains the word expenses, for example, then what will happen is every time it picks up expenses, it will try and apply that rule. Now, if you're not being careful and you're not watching your bank statement, you could accidentally allocate something to wherever you create that to, where you shouldn't. As a daft example, if any text field contains the word E, for example, I'm sure none of you would actually do that. So now I've said every time the bank transaction contains the word E, apply the rule. And what you're hopefully, actually that hasn't worked, so maybe I've done something more that will. Yeah. That, by the way, is another common thing if it just contains. But now what it's going to do is every time it reads an E in the name, it's going to try and apply that rule. So you just got to be careful with what and how you can create those rules. But they are very, very good tool for speeding through your bank statement lines if used correctly. Just stop for a second. Has there been any questions? Everyone okay? I haven't sent anyone to sleep yet. Everyone's still awake. hopefully. So again, getting those rules in place will be wonderful, and hopefully speed up transactions. So the next thing I'm going to take a look at is where a director or an owner pays for those invoices directly. So a lot of your businesses, you know, sometimes you've gone out, you've got a purchase invoice, or you got a chase, and you've handed over cash, your own personal cash, or you've accidentally used the wrong debit card, credit card from your own personal account. So now we're going to look at how you will deal with that transaction. So the first thing that you've got to do is enable the Xero to allow you to mark things as paid via your own personal account codes within Xero. So to do that, what we do, we go to accountancy and we go to chart of accounts. The chart of accounts just making sure I am sharing my screen, aren't I, Nat, at the moment? Yeah, excellent. Sorry, just double checking. Sorry,
you're not sharing your screen.
I'm not sharing my screen, right? Sorry, apologies, everyone. I shall try again.
Yeah, now you got it.
Excellent. Okay, so back to the dashboard. Everything starts with the dashboard. So what we're going to do is we're going to enable the director's loan account to accept that's where payments can come from. So we go to this accounting tab. We go to the chart of accounts. And then on this occasion, we're going to find the director's account. Again, at the top of the screen, you've got a search function. So if you know you're looking for the director's account, start with the word direct. If you know what the code is, you could have typed it in and you find the account that you're looking for. Once you find that account, you simply click on it and you'll see at the bottom here, there's a little tick box here, enable payments to this account. You simply click that and click save. That now allows that account to be accepted as a payment account, as it were. And so the next thing to do is to allocate that invoice saying it's been paid and been paid personally. So where we would go is we'd go to the bills to pay, and awaiting payment. Now, if we say that this capital cab company, that was accidentally paid by the director using his own personal card, the money is effectively due back to him. You simply put in the date, and in this paid from box, what you'll see now is an option further down. There's the bank accounts, but further down, you've now got a director loan account. So it gets posted into there. And add payment. Of course, should you reimburse the director for that money, then when the payment is made, you would code that payment to the same place so that the payment matches the transaction that's gone through, and it clears itself off. As I say, with Xero, there are many ways of doing things, and hopefully today we're going through what we feel is the easiest ways. But I appreciate that many of you may have various ways of dealing with certain transactions, and so there may be other ways that you've tried that you think work better or are slightly different to what I'm doing. But as long as the end process ends up being the same, that's fine. As I say, I'm just trying to give a guide on what we think is the best way to do things. Okay. Stop for a second again. Is there any questions, anything? I think I did send everyone to sleep. Excellent. Right. So I will carry on. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is find and recode. And this is a powerful tool, but also a very dangerous tool if you get it wrong. And what find and recode does, and you need certain privileges in order to have this access. Find and recode allows you to change multiple transactions all in one go. So I'm now going to screen share again. And take you through the process. So from the accounting tab, I'll go to find and recode. Okay. Now I know that I've done a couple of things wrong. I want to change them all in a bulk code. And that could be the fact that I've posted a load of fuel receipts to travel, and now I've realized it should be motor expenses. It could, there are various reasons why you would possibly have this issue. The example we're going to use is the fact that we claimed VAT back on entertaining. We're thinking it was subsistence, and we now know that it's actually entertaining and we shouldn't have had that VAT. So what we do first of all is in the find and recode screen, click on find and recode. And then again, similar to setting up the bank rules, we are now just going to instruct Xero on what we're looking for. So I know that I've posted a load of stuff to entertaining, but I've claimed VAT back on it. So the first thing I'm going to do is ask Xero to find anything in the account which was posted to entertaining. Now you can leave it at that and click search and find a whole load of transactions, but I'm going to refine it a little bit further. I'm going to say, I also know that I accidentally claimed VAT back at 20%. So I've now got my two conditions that I want the transactions found. I'm going to click on search. And here we are. It's pulled up 3 transactions where I've claimed VAT. And now I'm saying that we shouldn't have claimed VAT. Now, realistically, actually, there's probably no debate on this. The VAT should have been fine. But obviously, I'm just using this as an example, just to make life easy. But yeah, don't start panicking and saying, oh, I've claimed, you're telling me I can't claim VAT back on coffee. No, it's fine. I'm just using this as an example. So with the transactions all here, we've claimed VAT back on all of these. We're now saying no. So you can click on them individually to change them, or the X at the top highlights the lot. We then simply click on the recode and you'll get 2 options. You can create a journal, but by far the easiest thing to do is to record the actual original transaction that you have. When you click on that screen, you get the option to change the various options. So you can change the contact, you can change the account, so if you don't want it to go to entertaining anymore, and you can change the tax rate. So if we're actually saying that this isn't entertainment, it's actually travel and subsistence, we could do that instead of saying that it's actually incorrect VAT. Or we can say that was absolutely fine. Don't recode that. But we're actually going to say that we shouldn't have claimed VAT. Xero rated. Once you've changed what you need to change here, you click on review. It does give you a warning, and you just simply click confirm once you're happy. And there we go. It's now changed those 3 transactions to what we want. As I say, it's a very powerful tool, but because you can deal in large numbers, you just have to be a bit careful with what you're doing. Because if you change a load of transactions to the wrong codes, that's just as complicated as leaving them where they were. Hopefully that's useful though. So that's almost the end of the presentation. There's one more thing to just quickly tell you about on the back of the notes there. There are 2 places that you can go if you've got any queries or you want to know the status of Xero. So there's a bank feed status, so you can log on. I can't actually do it at the moment because, again, the way my screen's being shared, originally I had the pages set up, but they're not there at the moment. But if you go to the last page of the notes, there's a bank feed status where you can log on, you can check the bank feed status out, and if there's any issues, it will tell you. And then there's a status of Xero in general. So if you're finding that it's slow or there's an issue, it's status.xero.com, and you can log in there and it will tell you if there's any issues or known issues with Xero at this present time and what they're doing about it. So that's the first point. If you can't log in or you're having issues, do look at those 2 links that are in the notes, and they will take you to where you need to go. And then you can have a look. And obviously, if there's nothing there, then contact us and we can get in contact and have a look at the issues to see how they're going. So that's it from me for now. I will attempt to pass you over to Joanna, who will go through the Xero phone app to give you some basic details on how the phone app works, in case that may be of use to you. Because what we found more and more so is when you're on the go, when you're busy, having the phone app, using the phone app to its full potential is also a massive time saver. Yeah, with that ado, I will try and transfer you over to Joanna.
Hello, everybody. Whilst we're setting this up, let me see. I'm going to attempt to share my screen and show you exactly how the app is looking. I'm using an iPhone, so the Xero app will be a little bit different in the way it looks depending on what sort of phone you have. So on the iPhone, it will have a slightly, maybe visually, it will be a little bit different to the Android one. But overall, it should be, the options are pretty much the same. I'll see if I can share my screen now. Bear with me 2 seconds. And connect my, I can see my phone here. Okay, let me just share my screen. Are we seeing that? Are we seeing my lovely children behind the apps? Hopefully we can. Right, so the first thing to do would be to basically download the Xero app, just like any other app. You would download it from the App Store. On the iPhone, looks a bit like that. I might actually just quickly log out, so you see what this is what you see at the very beginning. You log in with all your normal login credentials. It will be the same credentials as when you log in on the desktop. And the first thing you would see is pretty much like an overall, you know, like the dashboard that you would see in the computer version. However, obviously, it's not going to be as advanced as as the computer version. So we've got the business accounts, we've got sales and purchases, and at the bottom you can see you've got the sales and purchases options and the contacts if you wanted to use those. I find that the most useful things to do would be the bank reconciliation. So if you click on the bank, you can go through, it takes you through all the transactions. You scroll to the bottom or to the top to look at, it will show you the most recent transaction first, date-wise. And then obviously if you, Daniel was talking about creating the rules, the bank rules. If you have quite a lot of bank rules set up, it's very handy, because then on the app, those rules will come up, and then you can match the transactions on the go, or you can obviously create a transaction if you know what the spending or receipt was for. So you can create it here, and it's quite useful, you know, if you do have time, you find yourself, I don't know, traveling somewhere and you think, oh, I'm going to have a look at what my bank is looking like. You can do it on the go. There's Xero will also suggest certain postings. So this is an example where we've paid £15 to the bank for a bank fee, and Xero is suggesting that's where you should be posting it. And all you can do is click OK if you're happy with that transaction. So all you do is click OK, and it disappears. That's another one for 7-Eleven. Again, we've got a rule created. If you're happy with that, click OK, disappears. It's as simple as it is. So that will be just simple transactions on the bank. We can also, if you would like to do that, some smaller businesses might take advantage of that. You can create your sales invoice on the go, or you can also allocate the bank receipt. If you know that an invoice has been paid, you can create a new one by simply just hitting the little plus icon at the top, the little plus, and then we've got an option to create a quote or create an invoice. We can create an invoice. It's fairly user-friendly. You can just literally input the either contact details that you already have, or you can create a new one. So let's say I'm going to create an invoice to myself. And there we go. I'm going to, this business going to invoice me today. Due today, invoice is automatically picked up, invoice number. You can put description or enter a product if you already have a product set up. We'll just do it as Xero presentation. And let's say I'm going to be charged £100 for the play. Oh, 1,000, maybe just 100. And done. You can also, with the phone, it's quite easy to attach a file to any kind of transaction that you're posting. So we've got that attach file option, and we just tap on that. We can take a photo of something that's quite useful for receipts that we've got, and I'll show you in a second. But you can take a photo, you can choose a photo from your gallery. I'm going to choose a lovely picture of Daniel from the latest XeroCon that we've attended, and we had a great time. I highly recommend if you ever get a chance to go, and you can just save it. You can then send it to your customer, or you can just simply save it and send it later on. If you want to send it, you hit send, and it will automatically prepare the invoice for you. That's how the email would look like, and you can click just send, and here it is. And that's as easy as it is. It's very handy on the go. We can also, if we've got sales invoices already prepared, it will show us. In this case, we've got 2 draft ones, we've got some unpaid ones. Let's say somebody is going to pay us. We can simply just search. We can type in, let's say, there we go. There's my invoice there. This lady hasn't paid us, but if I did, I would just simply click on add payment, paid into which account. Again, you can choose whichever one, whether it's a business bank account, or you can also, if you received it personally, you can click on owners, funds introduced, or drawings, usually the drawings account. So that would take you to, that wouldn't necessarily go through the bank account, but through the, your personal director's loan account or drawings account. And that's it. That's as simple as that is. If we just quickly look on the purchases, I find that a lot of people find it quite easy to use as well, especially if you're on the go, you're paying for something with the debit card, let's say, and you've got a receipt, a small receipt. You can simply, just in case you want to make sure that you don't lose the receipt. So instead of just stashing it in your wallet, you can simply just pull out the Xero app, go to purchases, click the little plus button, add receipt, and you input some information. So where do you spend it? Let's say, we'll say 7-Eleven. We don't have to shop, doesn't matter. What was it for? Let's say it was food spent today. How did you pay? You can choose your business bank account, categorize to an account, which would be, let's see, it's just travel and subsistence, and input your, let's say, £20, and we'll also attach, and that's where it's quite handy. You can take a photo and literally take a photo of your receipt. I haven't got anything to take a, say, my keyboard. Take a photo of it, use the photo, it will automatically get attached, and you can just add it, done and dusted. It doesn't take long. It's very handy to just have it there. Then you can reconcile it later on when you go to your bank reconciliation screen, again within the app, or possibly on the desktop if you find that more useful. You've got the contacts information here as well if you wanted to add any contacts, but you can always add contacts on the go as you're creating transactions, so it's not necessarily to set them up directly, but these are just the basic options. Oh, I can see a quick message here about the Xero app. How do you add the bank payments as overpayment to supplier account as direct debit taken? But invoice not yet processed. Let me see. Bank payment as overpayment to supplier. Can we do that? So let's see. Oh, what would we do? I don't know whether it's actually that clever, the app itself. If we can just add bill, that would create a purchase invoice, and or add receipt, which would be a direct bank expense. I'm not quite sure if we would be, oh, actually, if we go to the dashboard, if receipt overpayment, so let's say to create, if we were to create new, I don't think, unless Daniel and Natalie know, I don't think we can do that on the app. It would probably, overpayments will probably have to be done on the computer when you log into the web version. I don't think we could create an overpayment.
We can certainly look into it and then get back to you, Sarah.
Yes, because I don't think, credit card, just trying to think if we, because overpayment basically is a payment on account to a supplier if we haven't got an invoice to match yet, or if we want to allocate it later, which, and the posting that you create would basically be a posting to your creditor's ledger account, and I don't think necessarily the app gives you that option, but we'll definitely look into it and see if that's something that we could do. Like I said, it's quite handy when you've got sort of like the basic transactions to process, the sales, and adding bills, and especially yes, the little receipts on the go. That's quite handy. There are some other apps that are quite good that connect to Xero, that help you with processing your receipts, and mainly when it comes to purchases, they're quite good. There is already HubDoc that's already incorporated within Xero. You might have had a look at it. It's free. It's usually included with most of the subscriptions. And that's quite good for snapping your receipts as well and processing them later. I don't think we can actually demonstrate it today, but maybe we'll come up with another session where we talk more about all the different apps that connect to Xero, because that's a big market for that as well. But I hope you like this little presentation. If you have any more questions, we will try to answer that, or you can always drop us an email at the Xero support email address. I think Natalie shared it earlier in the chat box, and yeah, we're here to help. Any little queries. The joy of Xero is that we can always log in and have a quick browse at your data and actually tell you exactly what to do. So the access is great. So yeah, I think I'm going to hand you over to Daniel, and if I can do that, Daniel. Yes, and we'll say our goodbyes for today, I think.
Excellent. Yeah, so thank you all for attending. I do hope that it has been of some use. As I say, we were literally just brainstorming on the most common sort of questions we get. But again, please feel free, if you've got any questions, whilst we're here, you might as well utilize us. But other than that, again, thank you for attending. We've just dropped the Xero support at Honey Barrett email address into the chat room. That is where you can connect to 4 members of the Xero team. So if you don't have a question right now, but you're in the middle of using it and you come up with something, please drop us an email, and one of us will quite happily pick it up. I'll stick around for a few more minutes, just in case you've got any questions. Other than that, I hope you again enjoyed the session. I hope you have a great day. Thank you very much.